I got your next set of artist proofs. We could talk about those. So I know,
Nice.
I don't know if you know this, but you're the first interview that I ever did on collectorarthouse.com, the written Q&A, and
Oh,
I've
really?
done 14 more since then, so 15
Nice.
total.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was interesting because like you're probably like one of the unknown artists, the new up and coming artist, but like your interview got tons of views on the website. I think the most of
Wow.
anybody since the beginning of all the interviews that I've done. So you're a
That's really
popular
cool.
guy. I think people like your work.
That's awesome. Makes me
Yeah,
happy.
man. Yeah, so I'm gonna there's a lot of people that are just finding out about sorcery for the first
Mhm.
time, probably haven't seen that interview. So I wanted to start off by letting you talk a little bit about your background, like how you got into art and then how you got discovered from this for this project, how Eric reached out to you.
Yeah, so I had a really long art journey. My parents were both artists. My dad's an oil painter, and my mom was an art teacher. So they didn't really like teach me or tutor me or anything, but like for Christmas or my birthday, whatever, they would get me like colored pencils instead of
Hmm.
video games or whatever. So I just ended up doing art as a kid for a really, really long time, and then eventually wanted to become like a scientific illustrator or a
Yeah.
paleontological artist. Like I really like painting dinosaurs and drawing
Hmm.
dinosaurs. So I went into college and kind of was going to decide on science versus art, and I ended up doing art in at CU, and had a pretty different style than everyone there. Like everyone there, like was going into academic, conceptual art, like gallery work, not a lot of like actual painting going on. So I was painting and I was doing like fantasy historical stuff, and it was kind of like a little bit of a different route. Um,
Okay.
so they my teachers, my professors didn't love it. They wanted me to take a more academic uh path, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to paint what I wanted to paint. Otherwise, it wasn't going to be interesting. So I just kept going on and then kept making these pieces and putting them up on ArtStation. And I was actually really, really lucky that Eric found me because I was not good about social media. I didn't have a huge presence online.
Hmm.
So Eric just found my paintings on ArtStation, and he hit me up, and it was like my first like big gig. I've done like commissions and stuff before that, but never worked on like an actual project like for a business. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
So you were all right, I messed with the audio again. Are you hearing me okay?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's much better. The echo went away. All right. So he discovered you on ArtStation, first major project. Had you just like graduated from school or were you pretty much done with art school at that point?
Pretty much, yeah. I was done by about a year or two. Um, yeah, I had been graduated. I kind of fell off the train. Like I said in college, they kind of tore down my work a little bit because they're like, you know what, you're not going to get in galleries with this type of stuff. You
Hmm.
got to be doing like not painting, super conceptual work, like based around ideas and not visuals and et cetera, et cetera. So after I got out, it just felt like a really long road to like make any sort of money doing art. So I kind of like just pursued my other career paths for a little bit. And I would do commissions here and there. But and then Eric hit me up, and it kind of like revitalized my art, and my like passion,
Yeah.
and I like actually started working, learning again. Um, so that was really cool. It's like now it's been like, I don't know, 3 4 years working on that stuff, and it's um, really like boosted my art, uh, and my passion for it and stuff. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're
yeah.
able to make a career out of it. So like when you were studying and trying to do the scientific artwork, like what kind of what kind of gigs or work would you typically get in that kind of field?
I actually have a pretty good contact. His name's Gary Staub, but he's
Hmm.
one of the scientific artists, paleontological artists, in the U.S. that is really, really like prolific, and he mostly works in sculpture now. But basically, like the dioramas for museums, he works
Hmm.
on those. So like any science museum, Smithsonian, he's got some things in there. He's got things all over Denver Museum of Art, and he's got international stuff. But he just
Hmm.
makes like giant sculptures of prehistoric creatures. It's pretty cool. He does like dinosaurs and mammals and all sorts of stuff. And then there's also just like, I don't know if you've heard of James Gurney. He did like the
Yeah.
Dinotopia books. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
he's also kind of in that realm, scientific illustrator, but he will do illustrations for like National Geographic and like scientific publications and et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of what I wanted to do in the beginning is just paint dinosaurs and prehistoric animals and all sorts of like crazy stuff for science magazines, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so like when we did the interview, you sent me the picture, you did those little what do they call them? Like marquettes, the little
Oh,
mannequin figures for Vanguard
yeah.
Nights.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me pull that up and we'll yeah, are you seeing that on the screen? Let me go to
Yeah.
your cards here. We'll talk about some of your cards. I got and then we'll look at the proofs after. But I remember
Cool.
like was it Vanguard Nights? You did the little
I think I did it for Spin Attack. I had those
spin
little like
attack?
the
Okay.
dragons. Yeah, the dragons were like hard to figure out because it's just such a weird
Ah.
angle. So I had
Yeah, let me pull up the interview that we did because I think you sent me like a few images and I thought I included it in there.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
so like, is that something you learned in college as well? Like how to do that, or is that just tinkering
No.
around? You kind of self-taught yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, college didn't teach me a lot about technique. I kind of
Hmm,
learned all that on my own. So I actually learned a lot from just like James Gurney's books
there we go.
and just like yeah. Oh, I did do one for
Yeah,
Vanguard
the Vanguard
Nights.
Knights.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I just have this like oil-based clay, and I can just make it into whatever, and it stays wet, and you can just like photograph it, and it's really handy for getting the light correct.
Hmm.
So that's a big thing that James does with his like Dinotopia pieces. Um, and it just like helps you kind of visualize the scene. And I didn't learn much about that in college. College was all like super weird modern art type of stuff that
Hmm.
they didn't do a lot of technique stuff, unfortunately. I
So they
think
try to steer you into a direction that they think would be most like marketable for an art career. You don't have a lot of freedom of choice there.
sort of. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think gallery work is actually not super lucrative
Hmm.
because it's very, very hard to get into galleries and it's very subjective. So usually, like if you're a really good craftsman, like if you can paint really well, you can make a living doing something. If you're a good designer, right, you could work on games, movies, concept art, illustration, that type of stuff. But they're very geared towards academia. So they want like super
Yeah.
modern art that has like fresh new ideas, but that means that anything that's unoriginal, right, that
Hmm.
doesn't really count. So any kind of fantasy art, any kind of painting really is like not gonna work unless it's super different and unique. Um, so they tried to steer me away from my illustration stuff, but that's actually like fairly lucrative, right? That's like you can actually make a
Yeah.
living with illustration. Um, which it was a little unfortunate. It kind of killed my passion. So I think if I went to like an illustration school or a craft school like RemCAD or something, then it would have been better for my art. But that's okay. I made it to where I am now. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you catch on with the TCG, hopefully Sorcery is successful and Eric will bring you back, for set after set for a long time.
yeah,
That's the way to go. Yeah, this is pretty cool too. I didn't notice this like when you first sent it, but like you kind of made this is this like a cardboard box and you kind of carved out the
yeah,
scene.
yeah. I just wanted to see if there's like light coming through the windows in the front and see if like
Yep.
there's some halos or something that I was missing. Yeah,
Yeah, so we go down to the piece here. Let's see. Yeah, that blows up pretty well. See if the guys celebrating the knights coming into the
yeah,
scene, and this was based off of. I think you sent these as well too with this German artist,
yeah,
kind of inspired by this scene here, huh?
yeah, yeah. I love
Cool.
that piece is really really cool. I think that guy Bauernfeind, he has a lot of cool like Orientalism pieces.
Hmm.
It's very very technically accurate and proficient. So
Cool. Yeah, I noticed like in talking to some of the artists recently, like a lot of them take. There's a lot of these like really well established fantasy artists that have done a lot of work for TCGs or book covers, magazines, like all types of things, and a lot of them offer courses and training, like little training seminars. Have you ever looked into something like that to continue beyond college, or too soon at this point?
yeah, I mean, I have I've done I did Watts Atelier for a little bit, like just online.
Hmm.
That was mildly informative. But I think really what I want to do for my continued education later on is probably smart school. It's it's like a play on art school with SM in the front.
Okay.
It has like a lot of these like really really top names in the business, like Donato Giancola and Greg Manchess and just like all these huge guys that do the top 1% of illustrators have courses there, and they fill up really, really quickly. But if you have the money and you have the passion, you can take a course. And I went to a LuxCon last year, and I was talking to one of the ladies. She had some really, really amazing pieces, and she was mentioning how she did that course, the Smart School, and it just took her art to the next level. And that's how she made it to LuxCons, because she like did the public showcase, which anyone could get in. It's like first come, first serve. And then she did this Smart School and just leveled up her art so much that she actually got to do the showcase where you have to like apply. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking, I didn't realize you were there. I went there last year too. Were you there during the week or like I was there the last weekend, I think Saturday night.
Yeah, I was there the last weekend as well.
Oh shit, man! I had no idea you were going. I don't know. Yeah, I wish I would have known, because I think like I had interviewed before that, so we like knew each other kind of. And
maybe.
I met Drew Tucker and Jeff Menges, and who else was there from Sorcery? Like Alan Pollock, Jeff Easley was there. Yeah, that's too bad. If I would have hooked up with you for sure. You're not going this year, are you?
Unfortunately, no, I'm not going this year. I probably would try to make it next year. I want to be in a showcase. But yeah, I have a lot going on this year, so I'm probably not going.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try to go every year. My family lives close to there, so it's easy to just go up and stay for the weekend. But I was talking with, to your point there, I was talking with Liz Danforth recently, and she was, I think, I forget if she said she's never been there before, but like she's always like aspired to be in part of that more selective gallery, I guess. And, you know, like all these artists think they're not good enough, which is crazy because we all think they're absolutely amazing. So she was, I guess, like, I don't know, I don't want to say self-conscious about it, but she was like, oh, maybe my work's not good enough and this and that, which is like crazy because she's been doing it for 30, 40 years. But she got in it this year, so she's going to be there in the evening showcase. And I think Jeff was in it last year too, I want to say. And I'm not sure which one he's doing this year, but he's coming back. Jeff Menges and a lot of the same guys, Drew, Jeff, maybe Jeff Easley, I want to say, Liz Danforth, Margaret Rogan Keene. So were you into, I forget if I asked you in the interview, were you into TCGs at all, or do you know of Magic the Gathering or artists from that scene?
I mean, I know Magic. I know a lot of the artists just because I was into art, but I never was like collecting or like into playing or anything. But I knew of Magic. Yeah, I knew kind of vaguely like how it worked, and I knew a lot of the artists.
Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing to be amongst that company, you know. For you coming up on your first gig, you're with some of the legends that have done it since like Alpha Set of MTG, and getting to meet them in person must be pretty cool too. Going to IX and things like that. Yeah,
definitely super amazing, super humbled by just the artists that are on this project along with me. There's some like really huge names and some crazy good art, you know.
Is there anyone you knew of beforehand that particularly stood out when you, like, how did it, so Eric reached out to you, found you on ArtStation. Did you right away figure out some of the other artists that were involved in a project, or did that kind of come over time?
That kind of came over time. I did not realize a lot of the guys, when he first emailed me, I kind of was like, is it like real or not? Because like you get a lot of emails as artists that are just kind of scams.
Yeah.
Oh, work on this project, and then they won't pay you, or they're like, I don't know, just a lot of scammy stuff. So I like did the paintings. I was like, even if it's not real, you know, at least I'll have some paintings for my portfolio. So I did them and sent them, and everything like went smooth. And I was like, okay, this is like a real project. And so at that point, that's kind of when I started researching it and kind of found how many people were on the project. I think the big thing for me was just how many artists were there like working on the same thing. And I was like, wow, this is like pretty big, you know, like there's names I recognize, but just like the amount of names, you know, it wasn't like a one-off like Fiverr project or something. It was big, you know. So
yeah, you mentioned I could imagine that coming through, because like Eric's like I don't know if he's like an introvert. The way he communicates is pretty unconventional, and he's like a man of very few words, especially in writing. So I can only imagine like he probably didn't give you like a super thorough sales pitch when you first reached out. You're probably like, who is this guy, and like, what is this project, right?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because a lot of commissions they'll get really, really specific on you. and they'll be
Yeah.
like, I need like one guy right here on the right, and then we need this shape with a horse, and we need it all blue and green. And he's just like, I need a knight, and that's it. And then you just like run with it, and then you send him a bunch of knight pictures, and he's like, oh, that one's cool, you know. So
Yep. Yeah. So did you do like with the back and forth in that? Would you present him a few different sketch concepts and then he'd pick his favorite, or how did the process work?
yeah, pretty much. I do. I like to do a lot of thumbnails in the beginning, little just tiny baby sketches, you know, and then I kind
Yep.
of pick the ones I like, the ones that I want to work on, you know, because sometimes if you send just everything, then sometimes the person you're working with will pick something that you're like not super excited about, and so that kind of
Hmm.
puts a damper on your work, you know. Like I really want to be excited about whatever I'm working on. It makes it way easier to like sit there and paint on it. So I would pick like 5 that I really liked and that I knew I was okay with like working on for extended periods of time, and then send
Hmm.
those. And then he'd pick like 1 or 2 that he liked, and then I'd flesh those out a little bit more and be like, okay, what do you think about this? And send for basically the composition. So a lot of times I would not factor in the word boxes enough,
Okay.
because it's very typical to just make sure your whole canvas is full of like action and
Hmm.
composition. Um, and I had not worked on card games before, right? So you have
Right.
to factor in the word box. So like the whole section on the bottom, right? Like I kind of have to not fill in, or at least not make anything important right there.
Yep.
So several times he was like, "Well, we should definitely extend the bottom a little bit." But it was
Okay.
usually pretty basic notes like that. He wasn't ever like, change this whole thing entirely, you know? So he let
Hmm.
us have a lot of freedom, a lot of artistic license with it, which is very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I've heard that like pretty consistently from some of the art. There's a lot of artists actually, probably roughly half or so that have never worked at TCG before. So they struggle with the same thing, like the text box layout, working within a template or not working within a template, and then having to figure out how to adjust to it. So it's kind
Yeah.
of interesting how you say, like, I can imagine you, like, for one of these images, right? If the full image of these Crusade was just down to here, you would need that excess, like,
Yeah.
negative space, right, for the text box.
Yeah.
So some of the artists, like, in the opposite direction too. Like Brian Smith was telling me for his Whirling Blades artwork, he had the same problem on the northern side of the card at the top. Right, he
Yeah.
had to go paint like another, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches on top of his painting,
Yeah.
and he had this funny picture where he did it like. Obviously, it's not digital; it's hand painted, right? So he had this other board that he painted. It was like another, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches, whatever it was, and then he had to digitally connect it afterward.
Uh,
But then
dang.
you learn, right? Like, and then other artists, they're more experienced and they know to hide things behind the box, which is kind of cool. When you sell the painting, it has a little extra, or when you see the full art side on the card, there's like a little surprise there. So that's something you could play with maybe on future sets.
That's not a bad idea. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because you have to make like I base my compositions differently if I'm working in like a portrait mode or landscape mode, but you have to make your composition work in a landscape and then paint the painting as a portrait. So
Hmm.
it gets a little bit confusing with your compositions, you know. So
Yeah. Now I think I forget because the Crusade and the Jihad, I know
yeah.
they paired those together for a playmat, and it made it look like it was one painting, right? But these were two separate paintings.
Yeah, I should have done those as one painting,
Hmm.
but I didn't like put the pieces together at the time because he had
Okay.
mentioned that he wanted them to go along with each other, but he didn't say like, oh, they need to be like one painting. So I kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna make them just mirror each other because he wants them to be played together.
Okay.
Um, and then kind of like halfway through the process, he was like, oh, these should be like we're gonna actually put them together. These should be like really matching. So then I
Hmm.
had to kind of like change a little bit, not too much, but change a little bit to make them look like they went together. But that part was difficult because I had 2 different canvases.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it looks like they were done as one piece, so it came
Yeah.
together really nicely. Um, yeah, that's cool. So let me see. Your buddy here, Lewis, is asking a question. How long did it take you to paint a painting like Vanguard Nights? Do you recall?
Um, yeah, it kind of depends on the painting because of the different variability of detail. So
Yep.
Some with like a lot of tiny things usually takes a longer. And some of these paintings, the canvases are bigger. So like Vanguard is a much bigger canvas because the first few I did on pretty small canvases, but I don't really like working with like really tiny brushes. And just like having my face really close, it's not as good for me. So I ended up starting to do bigger and bigger paintings. And those bigger paintings probably take like around 3 weeks when you get to
Wow.
actual painting.
Hmm.
So it usually takes me like a week to plan the card, to figure it out, get all the references, get all my sketches done, get all the pictures I want to use, and then 2 to 3 weeks to just paint it.
Okay.
And sometimes you like run into problems. Like Vanguard gave me a lot of trouble because like the whole scene is supposed to be dark, um,
Uh,
but I can't paint it dark because I need the card to be seen. But like if the sun is coming
mm,
from behind a building, everything's going to be a silhouette. So if you saw that in like real life, like the nights
yep.
would be dark, the walls would be dark, and then there'd just be these light streaks where the sun is. But then you wouldn't be able to see any of the detail. So I wanted to like make it to where you could see the walls, see the nights, see the people well, but also feel like the light was realistic. Um, so I ended up like painting over that like several times.
Yeah.
So that one
Yeah.
took
It's
me
really.
kind of a long time, but
And you
yeah.
use the so you kind of simulated how the light would come in with that cardboard cutout thing you
Yeah,
did. Yeah, because the
yeah.
shadowing here is yeah, and the I can see how the mannequins are what are they called? Marquettes is the term?
Mock-ups.
Maquettes, yeah. I can see how that would help and block like the light coming in. So you see the shadow. It's kind of obscured by the box here, but even these figures on the sides and the knights coming into town, you see the
Yeah.
shadowing pretty well. Yeah, there's this guy that does a lot of magic. Have you ever heard of Raul Vitale?
It rings a
He,
bell. Yeah.
yeah, you should. I'll text the name to you later. You should look him up. Like he does amazing stuff with like lighting. It's really stunning. I don't. Some of these guys that have been doing it for decades for Magic are like absolutely unbelievable. Tony Solo is really good at that too.
Yeah.
Um, Capturing light and shadow. I mean, it looks really cool how you did it on the side of the building because you could see like the light beams up here, like on the top window, right? And then here it's like brighter but kind of shadowed, where this overarching arc kind of
Yeah.
obscures this part of the building. It's a lot that goes into that, and to do that with a paintbrush, I imagine must be pretty tricky, right? To
Yeah.
get the right color shades to simulate and make it look realistic.
Yeah, that's the trick. And a lot of times art teachers and artists are like, well, you need to just go paint like plein air. You need to be able to see it in real life to like figure out how the light works. But like
Okay,
I can't just go see something like this, like this is in
right?
Spain or something, and there's not like knights walking around. So that's
Yeah.
what makes it difficult. That's why I make the maquettes and stuff. Is like trying to get as close as I can to seeing it in real life. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and that I mean the maquettes definitely helped, but if you notice on the maquettes, they're just like really dark, and the
Yep.
background's really light. The cardboard and the clay figures are really dark, and it's hard to make them graphic and silhouette and still have detail.
Hmm.
So that's the trick. It's weird
Yeah.
because some situations will work way like better than others as far as painting. Like sometimes you'll come up with a composition and a situation that was easy, and then
Hmm.
sometimes something will be really difficult, and you kind of just don't know until you start. Like this one card I'm working on now, um, there's like there's fire in it, but the lighting for that is just different. I painted with fire before. Like there's this piece behind me somewhere that they have like there's Vikings with torches. You probably can't see it, but
Let me
uh,
minimize this.
that guy.
Yeah. Uh
So
huh.
I painted like fire like that, but that starts getting hard because there's multiple light sources.
Mm.
So usually things like that. If it's just like a sunlit thing with like not a lot of architecture and not a lot of multiple light sources, it's usually pretty easy. But like Vanguard, I thought was going to be easy, and it was super difficult. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty classic looking piece. Let me call it back up. So let's see. So you said like you kind of the cool thing about sorcery is that each artist has like their own unique like individual preferred style, right? So you get
right,
like a very high level description, and then you kind of pick the like the motif of it basically, or um
yeah,
like that one you said is kind of like a Spanish type scene, right? um
yeah,
but these others are more, well, I guess like when you get a card called Jihad, that kind of gives you more of like a desert scene, right? And you said Crusade goes with it, but these other ones like Border Militia, Highland Klansman, Spin Attack's, I guess, a little different because he's. Tell me a little bit about Spin Attack. Did he ask for like a guy kind of swatting at dragons here, or how did that come to be?
Yeah, that one was actually one of the more specific ones. Like I said, a lot of times he gives me like
Yeah.
less than a sentence of a prompt, and he's just like,
Hmm.
"I need a knight who's standing in a room." And you're like, okay, that could be
Yeah.
like thousands of different things. Spin Attack, he got pretty detailed. He actually sent me a couple of pictures, kind of
Oh.
they're like video game screenshots or something of like the motion of the sword because
Ah.
he wanted the circular like motion to be super visible.
Okay.
And he wanted him slaying multiple monsters in one swipe. And
Hmm.
I like dragons, so I put the dragons in.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, initially I had the dragons as green, and then they just like didn't stand out very well, so I changed them to red. But
Hmm.
yeah, that one was very specific as far as the prompt. So
Yeah, and so he's looking for a certain effect there because he's trying to pair it closely to the mechanic in the game. It says an ally strikes each enemy at its location, and an ordinary magic of radial violence. So the radial is kind of like
yeah,
that spin effect, and you're hitting like minions at the bordering locations in the game. So that's really cool how it's like slitting the throats of all three dragons, and I
right,
like how you did this like blood splatter effect that follows the pattern of the sword to kind of achieve what he was looking for. That's pretty
right.
cool because you could do like a shadow effect, I imagine, or different ways to come up with that concept. But this looks really awesome how you did that. Like actually, I hadn't really noticed exactly what was going on there and how well it pairs with the way the card plays until you just described that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yep.
That one was a tough one too, just because of the angle, like
Hmm.
figuring out what those dragons look like and the view from above. Like that was an
Yep.
interesting part to work on for sure.
Cool. Yeah, that came out great. So let's see. Border Militia too is kind of like one that stands out, is pretty different than the others. Do you
Yeah,
recall like what he asked for with that one?
that one was pretty vague. He didn't give me because sometimes he'll give me like reference pictures that kind of have the same feeling as what he's looking for, like paintings or like I said, video game screenshots or just kind of random images that he likes. This one did not have a lot of that. He was just like, I want them at a border and
Okay.
it's a militia. And he's like, figure it out. So I put the fence there to like kind of like simulate like, okay, they're at the edge of border.
Yep.
And then just put a bunch of farmers with weapons. And he was like, okay, we like the farmers with weapons vibe, put those in. And I tried to do like this compositional technique called linking where you just like link all the darks so it makes like one big shape. So I just tried to make one across kind of like a S across the
Yep.
card. Um, so that was kind of fun to play with. Yeah.
Yeah, it says ordinary magic to defend the motherland. So you got these like, yeah, to me it looked like these just ordinary villagers called into duty here to battle,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that one was fun. I mean, they're all pretty fun actually. I like to, get the assignment. You can really delve into it and think about it and like experiment and do a bunch of new stuff with each one. So I think that really helps if you kind of just like I don't know, kind of don't think about it and don't really get into it, then it tends to get a little
Hmm.
bit boring. But um, yeah, I like to figure out new ways to make sure the cards are interesting, and that helps get them done and make the art good and make me not bored.
Yeah. What kind of timelines were you given to work on? Were you kind of given strict time frames, or do you have the freedom to kind of do what it takes?
It kind of depended. Um, in the beginning, it was kind of just like whatever timeline I wanted, and he'll
Okay.
check up. And then the last assignment, it was a little bit more strict. And then this one, it's like a little bit less strict, but I think it kind of mostly depends on how long I take because I tend to take a little bit longer than he wants, I think.
Hmm.
Like last time, I was like probably a month late because I
Hmm.
turned him in on time and then he just wanted some changes. And then
Okay.
I took, probably longer than I should have to make those changes. But he came back again, so
Yeah.
I don't mind too much.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I only get like a set amount of time per day to paint. A lot of these like professional artists. I was talking to Donato Giancola at Alexcon, and he was like, "Yeah, I
Hmm.
like from start to finish, it takes me less than a week to do a painting. Sometimes like
Wow.
a painting per day." I'm like, "Whoa, like
Oh
that's
my god.
crazy." Um, but then he's like, "Yeah, but it's my job. I paint like 9 hours a day." I'm like, "Okay, well, if I painted 9 hours a day, I could probably do it in a week too. But I paint
Yeah.
like 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day if I
Yep.
can." So
Yeah, I mean, he's a pro too, like really
yeah,
high end artist. He's been doing it for a long time. So he
yeah.
was, Alan Pollock told me he was buddies with him. I think Alan was maybe the second interview I did after the one I did after you. And he said he was like, because Alan lives in the Finger Lakes in upstate New York. And I
Mhm.
think Donato's from New York City area too. They went to school together, I believe, in New York
Oh,
City. And it was just kind of cool. They had that connection. He's like, was alongside a legend like that and learned with him and his buddies with him. It'd be cool if Eric got him for the game too, because I know he does magic too. He's like one of these magic guys.
mhm.
But we'll see. That's cool. You got to talk to him and meet him.
Yeah, yeah, he was really nice. All those artists at LuxCon were very kind and nice, and
Hmm.
just very helpful. Whatever question you had, they'd always have an answer. Never guarding their information, and
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. So like you say with the timelines, I mean, it might have been different early on because the commission started in like 2017, 2018, I think. And I think initially Eric was trying to, I don't know, like I didn't know about the project till like 2021, I want to say. But then, like in researching the history of it, I think they were trying to debut it back in like 2020. So they were already a couple years into commissioning, and then there were some significant delays because of COVID.
Right.
Kind of derailed things and complicated some of the logistics, I think, and probably getting the printers to be able to print the product and whatnot. But now, like, it'll be interesting in the coming years when they're trying to. It's not like a super aggressive schedule. Obviously, they're aiming for 1 year set releases, but nevertheless, depending on the set size and how long it takes you got to have each of the artists like do the painting, and then you got to kind of figure out how it pairs with the game mechanic and get through the play testing and whatnot, and some
Yeah.
iteration there sometimes. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if that cycle changes on you for the upcoming sets.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to kind of block out a little bit more time for art. Um,
Hmm. Yeah,
you
it's
know,
still not your full time job, right? Like, what else you got going on
yeah,
top of
I kind of
this?
do like part time with the art, and then I work about 30 hours a week at a gymnastics gym.
Hmm.
So yeah, kind of a
You're
very
like a
different.
trainer or instructor there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm the head coach at Colorado Athletic Training School.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah,
So
very
did you do
different.
that?
But
Did you do that in high school or college as well?
yeah, yeah, I did
Okay.
competed at CU, and then yeah, I've been doing gymnastics and etc. my whole life. So
Wow. Awesome. Well, let's talk about we just auctioned off like the full set of these 6 cards, and they all had one common theme with a Nimbus. Like,
yeah,
how you coming up with? Is that do you think that'll be like your approach going forward? Are you trying to do like a comparable, like a singular thematic approach to each set of 6, or are you
kind
playing it by
of.
ear a little bit?
Yeah, kind of. I like to do a theme.
Hmm.
Most of the themes are not so like unique and uniform, right? Like the Nimbus thing
Yeah.
is very like that's pretty different, and they all had like a definite Nimbus, right? And that's kind of the same thing with the set that I just sent, or that I sent and then you sent back and I sent again. That set,
Yeah.
that was kind of inspired by like Drew Struzan, like the old school movie posters. So I wanted all of them to kind of have that feel with like a bigger composition with like the main character kind of like worked in it some way. Um, so that one's pretty different. And uh, the ones I'm working on now, they have like a theme, but they're not so like crazy, right? Like I have one
Hmm.
that's just like they're just a little bit darker, like kind of horror vibes, but it's still just oil painting. Like it's not nothing like crazy. And I have a few that are like airbrushed, but they don't really have like a theme. They just all kind of look similar.
Okay.
So they're not like super crazy, but I just like experimenting. So I might do a couple more sets that are a different idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think like all the artists are doing something different again. Like I think so all of them are doing something different for every card, but it's I mean some did like 20 to 25 pieces, so it'd be hard to do like a singular thematic scheme. Like Tony's doing one with King of the Realm where he's doing like his entire life cycle from baby to I guess current age or maybe even older, and he's gonna show the evolution of the king over
Oh, that's
time.
pretty
So yeah, it's awesome to see what people are coming up with.
that is cool.
But I wanted to show the ones you just sent to me. Let me see if I can get the overhead cam working here. All right, let's see. How do I?
Nice. Sick setup.
Yeah, I gotta just configure it so the right. There we go. All right, so I got them here. The one I regret not getting your Jihad and Crusade playmat. Did you order anything from the Kickstarter or were you just
Dang, I almost did. I was
yeah
gonna, and then I was like putting it off, and then when I went back, it was like it was over. And I was like, oh man,
yeah
like I should have gotten it while I had the chance.
yeah? I think Eric mentioned he's gonna try to like send a booster box to each of the artists, so at least
Ooh,
you get some of your own cards. Maybe
right.
you could keep some of your artist proofs too. But yeah, you have this set. It's marked. So you sign these ones number 5. Let's
Yeah.
let's go with. We talked about a lot of the art. Actually, I wanted to ask you about this. This is one that Tony kept saying he loves this artwork, which is really
Yeah.
cool too. It's one of my favorites. What was the design concept on this one?
He wanted he said barbarians when he
Okay.
so he's the cards Highland Clansman. He wanted it to be similar to Jihad and Crusade, but he wanted them to come from the front. So it's like they're running from a different direction, right? So like Jihad, Crusade,
Oh,
Klansman. Um, and so I kind of ran with like kind of a mix of barbarian and Klansman thing because I feel like the Klansman like makes it sound like Irish. So like you think of like the Picts
mm,
who have like the blue tattoos all over and stuff, and
mm-hmm.
then maybe like furs and et cetera, et cetera. But I needed it to fit in the kind of the desert theme, so I put it in uh, a desert, threw a mountain in the background. Um, Yeah, and that was the first card I think that I did on a bigger canvas. So I was able to fit
Okay.
like a little bit more detail in. So I kind of you can kind of tell it looks a little bit different than the other ones, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't make the connection before. That's pretty cool. I could kind of, I totally see that now. They're all kind of charging into the same battle scene, and
right.
these are the barbarians storming in. I love like the. I wish I could zoom. This is the max zoom I can get, but the
Yeah,
expression of the guy, I'm the lead guy charging
yeah,
in, and it says charge on the card, so it's like the perfect mechanic because he's literally charging.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that
And
was
then
definitely
so
fun.
yeah. So on this series, can you explain like the concept you're going for with each of these, with the larger figure offset by the smaller?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard of Drew Struzan, but he pretty much pioneered the movie poster industry, and he did like the Star Wars movie posters and like the Harry Potter ones, these old school posters. And there's kind of a conglomeration of figures, so it's not like one scene. It'll be like face of a character, and then like kind of a scene from the movie. So that's
Hmm.
kind of what I was trying to do. I was trying to do like kind of a scene from the card, and
Okay.
then kind of abstracted overall like the main character kind of put in there. And Drew uses airbrush and colored pencil, and so I was kind of playing with that style a little bit. I have an airbrush, and I would just I did like the
Oh,
sketch, added some color with the airbrush, and then threw colored pencil over it. And I think it
hmm.
gives it a little kind of a cool effect, you
Yeah.
know.
Were you like taught how to do airbrushing, or are you just kind of experimenting and
Not
self-taught on
really.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm self-taught. I watched some YouTube videos. I got into it
Nice.
because of like I watched a Drew Struzan YouTube video of him making a piece. It's pretty cool. There's a really good video of him making the poster for Hellboy.
Hmm.
It's very interesting. So I watched that, and then I got a airbrush, like a used airbrush for Christmas once, and I was like
Yeah.
started getting into it. Watched that, kind of learned how to use it.
Hmm.
Um, and
So
then
you did
recently,
that for like the background setting on some of these?
yeah. Yeah, so I
Hmm.
just, like, drew in pencil kind of what I wanted, and then
Yeah.
airbrushed a bunch of color in, and then did the details over the top with some colored pencil.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, airbrush is cool. Like I didn't really I wasn't like as well versed in that technique until Eric signed on Ed Beard Jr. who does he
Oh,
does he's doing like this Dragon Lord mini set
nice.
concept, and he does it on like he goes to car shows and does it on vans. He has this big Dragon Lord van,
Oh, that's
which is like a
cool.
whole nother field. It's
That's
insane like
sick.
how they do that on vehicles. And then
Yeah.
also Rodney Matthews, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's another pretty legendary fantasy artist, but he's doing some sick like artist proofs with airbrush technique. He did like some of these profile videos of kind of like how he did the artist proof, and it shows him kind of spraying the background, and it creates
Yeah.
this awesome smooth background, really nice uniform look,
Right.
But
Yeah, it's tough. There's a steep learning curve on airbrush. Like
hmm
regular brushes, you just put it on there, make a mark. Airbrush, you
yep,
gotta like speed the distance and spray the right amount. It's crazy
yeah,
hard. So, respect for
yeah,
anyone that can do that well.
yeah, it comes out great. So it's kind of cool because you did like the smaller figures are a little more rough, and then like the background and the prominent figures a little more refined. I think that gives it like a
Yeah.
lot of depth and character. It's a really cool concept.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this series is awesome. This was my favorite for sure. All right, so you got the Klansman. Let's take a look at. People are going nuts for this Crusade card. I think this is going to
Yeah.
be a big hitter. This is like the first one that I think I saw, and like a couple people were like, "I'll be winning that one"
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Facebook, and another guy's like, "Let me know when that one goes for auction." That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that one's
So,
sick. I like that one. I like the riders on the bottom, kind of making the scene, and
mhm.
then the main character kind of in the background, but refined. Yeah. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
fun concept to come up with for sure.
So this are they? Yeah, in this one they're carrying those flags with the cross, and then it's also in
Mhm.
their uniform. So you got like a zoom of one of the characters, and then the other guys
Yep.
kind of cruising along the scene. That's awesome. And then up in the cloud, I like that too. It's kind of like a backdrop
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah.
So all of these are similar, like airbrush kind of background, and then colored pencil is the medium over top.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Okay.
all kind of trying to be that like old school movie poster type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I tried to hit a little bit of a background element, the main character, and then like a scene from the card. Right?
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, it gives it almost like a godlike component too, is what I thought
Yeah.
of when I saw the larger figure
Yeah. Yeah. That's
from
cool.
Jihad too.
I
Yeah.
really like that one. That might be one of my favorite proofs I've done. I love the atmosphere and the color, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Like
really
the
cool.
top loader got a little dusty, but yeah, it stands out too with the accents of the pyramids too. It gives it kind of some character. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I like the silhouette of the camels. That was cool.
Uh huh. And the massive weapon.
Yeah.
That's great. Vanguard Nights. We are just talking about this one.
Yeah.
So so the lead knight charging in.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah, got a very like most of them are like blue and red, I think.
Yeah,
Paint.
I was just noticing that they all have that black background. Looks
Mhm.
awesome. They really pair well.
Yeah,
Order
thanks.
Militia. So this was the lone soldier. Yeah, what's going on with this guy here?
Yeah, I got my main character in the original card. There's a church I put in the very back. It's tiny. It's
Yeah.
like that little
Okay.
white church right there. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, I'm gonna put another church. That one's kind of based on like a stave church or like not like a very fancy one, because they're supposed to be like farmers, right? They're all
Yep.
kind of poor. So I did that. The main character guy, church in the back. I wanted it to be dark and moody, so I tried to make it seem like kind of cloudy. Um,
Okay.
and then just the scene from the cards of the militia on the bottom, kind of like abstracted in together.
Yeah. And a couple. What are these like birds sitting on the post, or is that just like an illusion?
I
Right
had
here, it almost looks like it is.
those are supposed to be animal skulls because in the
Oh yeah,
original
I
card
see.
I had
It's like an
I
eye.
think I had just one animal skull in the original card, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Oh,
remember.
is there? Oh yeah, right. Yeah, the animal heads.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So which one do you consider this guy the main character? Out because he's out front, or
Um, I don't know if I had a main character for that one. I kind of had several, but just
mhm.
as far as the proof, just um,
Oh, you mean the main
just
character for the
the farmer.
proof?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just one of the simple villagers. Cool.
yep.
Or farmers.
He's got a nice bowl cut going on there. Got that.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is a cool take on that. So that was just you just decided to throw that church in the background. That wasn't. I guess you said that like Eric asked for like a scene at the border. Um,
Yeah.
Simple
Yeah,
description.
I liked the buildings, kind of made it feel like a community or like a village, and they're supposed to be like coming from, their village, right? They're not conscripted, they're not soldiers or whatever. So I
Yep.
wanted the church that seemed like a very like community centric building, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone would be going there and like doing meetings and stuff. So it kind of made it seem more like a village. And then also I think there's like cool imagery with churches, like they're just very they can be like mysterious,
Yeah.
and can kind of be like darker and stuff. So uh I threw that one in there, and it worked with the composition because it made the sky like kind of a different shape, like so it wasn't just flat, and then that would be kind of boring. Like if I just put trees there,
Right.
so the sky is almost like a U shape, and then
Mm,
the people are like a U shape in the other way. So I thought that was
right.
kind of like a cool juxtaposition.
Yeah. The sky and the tree line up here. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of storytelling in art that's like underrated. That if you really look at it, you start to notice more and more, and start
yeah,
appreciating some of the design choices. So that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I remember in like elementary school and middle school, they'd like make us do readings, and then they'd be like, "But there's a bunch of symbolism," and I'd be like, "That's not true. Like, what? That
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. Like, the curtains were purple. Like, it doesn't matter." But then now that I'm doing art, I'm like, I actually do think a lot about these cards that people
Yeah.
probably don't realize. I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna
Yep.
put this like little thing in, and it's gonna mean like some aspect of storytelling."
Hmm.
Like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, and this one we talked about at length. So let's see how your take on this one.
Yeah. I dig that one. That's probably my second favorite from the set behind Jihad.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, yeah, he's like worn out from fighting dragons,
Yep.
taking a break on his sword there.
And the little guy's still going at it because they two got away here. It looks like, whereas here he's triumphant and slit the throats of all three in one swipe.
Yeah,
So
got a
that's
whole
that's awesome.
infestation of dragons.
Yeah, that's cool. Different and a bit different vantage point on the dragon, kind of trying to
Yeah,
intimidate. I thought this was cool because it's like this guy looks like he's like dedicated and he's gonna go for it, even though he's like vastly
yeah,
overpowered.
right. I love
Yeah.
the cool part about that one is that it kind of like mirrors the Crusade one, right? The dragon like makes that cross shape, and then the
Yeah.
Crusade one has that cross in the
Oh,
background.
okay.
So it's very like motif styles.
Yeah. Yeah. Like again, as like a collective, it looks freaking awesome. Like the whole set with the
Yeah,
uniform blue too. I mean, that's awesome. So you airbrushed it pretty consistently. They all have this like blue and this kind of white
yeah,
aspects of
they
white.
definitely
Like
go
these
together.
ones with the clouds, definitely, and the mountains.
Mhm.
And then this one, it looks like he almost worked it into like his armor a little bit as well.
Yeah,
And this guy too,
yeah,
his shirt.
yep.
Nice.
Yeah, that airbrush is really good for uniformity because like it just covers a lot of area very quickly, even when you don't want it to, because it just has that spray. So if you're
Yeah.
hitting the sky, like it tends to go most of the card at least a little bit, so you can kind of like do abstracted swaths of color, but it ends up making
Hmm.
everything kind of pretty uniform. So that's nice.
Yep. Cool, man. So like now you're moving on to Arthurian Legends. Is it challenging you in new ways, or are you kind of sticking
Yeah,
to your same usual style here?
it is challenged me. I think the main thing is like I'm just adjusting my technique to work quicker. Um,
Yep.
and more efficiently, I guess, because a lot of times, like I find myself maybe dilly dallying a little bit, and I want to be able to just work quickly and get the lighting right in the beginning. That's the big thing because a lot of times I think I get caught up working on like one small portion of the painting and don't focus on the lighting as much. And then when you get on down the road, you have to like fix everything, but it's hard to fix when it's already off, Like so if you just
Yeah.
start it right, that's definitely better. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think my style is more painterly. I like to have a lot of information in a few amount of brush strokes. I think that looks really cool when you can get it right, but it's difficult to get it right. And then it's difficult to get really detailed when you paint like that. So I think the thing for me is getting lighting right first, and then being able to get detailed later on.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned like both your parents were artists. Did they do it full time professionally or just more of a
Not really.
hobby?
Well, my mom was an art teacher, so she did
Okay.
that for full time. Yeah, for as long as right out of college, basically until
Oh,
now. And then my dad was an oil painter, and he was kind of semi-professional. He made money with it. We mostly lived off of my mom's income, but he made
hmm.
money occasionally. He was in a couple galleries, just small time, like in Colorado, and then did like commissions and sold pieces like privately and stuff. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's
yeah,
followed in their footsteps. It must be proud. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and you're making like a career of it too. Was that kind of like what you said that you kind of got disenfranchised by college a little bit too? So you're kind of
Mhm.
in limbo, not sure what direction you were going to go until Eric discovered you. And now you're kind of
Yeah.
reinvigorated.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I can actually like do this, and the game serves a purpose also of just like getting my name out there. So hopefully, like for
Yeah.
other projects, I can be like, well, I have like a pretty big project under my belt now, so I can kind of have a little bit more of a public viewing and also just a little bit more of a portfolio for like future stuff.
hmm. Yeah, it's great to have that portfolio of work and have it published in the game is going to go a long way for you, I'm sure, to have new
Def-
opportunities. So,
Yeah, just having eyes on that, like a lot of people are seeing this game. So,
yep.
just like them knowing that I make art is definitely gonna help, because like I said, I'm terrible at social media. I'll probably have to start doing a little bit more of that, getting my work out there.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah,
want
man, you're like really old school. I was surprised, like,
to.
because I mean, most artists are at least on like Instagram is the big thing. Like, a lot of
Yeah,
people hate Facebook and really want nothing to do with it, which is understandable. Like people that are into privacy and stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, I feel like Instagram's one where you don't have to get like fully invested in chatting back and forth with people and
true.
people commenting. It's more just like kind of like showing an image or showing your work, right? That's how most artists use it for, just to kind of show off works in progress or finished products or whatever. So maybe you could start there and start expanding your network. Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
grow quick because with your sorcery following, and as the
right.
game grows. So
Yeah, true. Yeah, I definitely need to get on that. I think I'm gonna get like a nicer camera coming up soon, and just start posting stuff. Just getting content out.
yep. Yeah, these
Definitely,
iPhones are getting really good too. Like when I
that's true.
showcase the artist proofs and stuff or like paintings, I'm just using like an iPhone most of the time and people are like, "Oh, there's Mike with his DSLR or whatever." Like I'm not like a photographer. I'm just trying to
Right.
it's all about the lighting too, So I have like this handheld like ring light which I got to
Yeah,
get at the
true.
right angle, especially for these foils, but it makes a
Yeah,
big difference.
yeah,
But yeah, man. Yeah, you're doing great. I think yeah, and you're doing the right things too. You should talk to like as many artists as you can, like when you went to the IX art show and stuff, because and getting to know a lot of the artists from Sorcery, like a lot of them, well, the ones that came from Magic, like some of them have like a Magic centric career and are still doing it for them, like Drew Tucker and Jeff Menges and these guys. Or actually, I don't know if Jeff still does, but Drew certainly does. Um, but others like kind of got away from that for whatever reason, like with the transition of the game and like sometimes these what are you doing, bud? Sometimes these games get acquired by other companies and the dynamic changes or they want to go in a different direction with different styles of artists and things. But others like an Ed Beard Jr., for example, like got away from the fantasy TCG art scene entirely and went to this airbrushing with cars and he goes
right.
to Renaissance fairs and stuff. So it's interesting to see like what the art world and art market is like outside of TCGs. A lot of people think that you have to be part of a trading card game for the art to have value, but some of the artists have done like much better outside of the trading card world, and
Right.
vice versa. Some have thrived within it. So just casting a wide net and trying to expand your reach. A lot of them do like book covers and like
Right.
I said, yeah, like book covers is a big industry. Album covers, you got Dan Seagrave doing heavy metal. That's like
Yeah.
a little different style. And Matthias Frisk, they have a different style for that. But Rodney Matthews did like fantasy art for more classic rock style bands.
Mhm.
There's all types of avenues you could go. But this is yeah, I'm excited for you and happy for you that you got discovered for this because it's going to open a lot of doors. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also excited about it. It's amazing.
Yep. Oh, let me hit a couple questions and then I'll let you go because we've been going for like an
Totally.
hour.
Yeah.
Someone asked here, any chance you'd be willing to sign cards for fans of your work? Are you starting to get asked for like signatures and prints and things like that?
Definitely sold some prints, sold some sketches, sold yeah, stuff just not that aren't cards and aren't originals. Pretty cool. Gotten hit up for a
Okay.
couple commissions that are based on the game. But yeah, I'd definitely be
Nice.
willing to sign some cards. Yeah.
How do what's the best way to reach you since you're not so much on social media?
That's true. I feel like most people reach me through Facebook or ArtStation.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, you got to figure out like probably a best mechanism that could help you get the word out once you're ready. Because
yeah,
I do you go on Facebook just kind of casually? You just don't post a lot. Like, do you see
I
the
do.
messages when people hit you up?
Yeah, I go on Facebook. The only issue is I don't go on very often. So I'll probably
Okay.
I'll just kind of see what's going on like once a week or so, but
Yeah.
maybe once every couple weeks or something like that.
Yeah, that's
But
good. Yeah, it's can get addicting and it's a big distraction, especially if you're a painter and you got to like put in hours of time. You don't want to get like bogged down chatting with people all day.
yeah,
Changes your life, man. It's too
yeah,
much sometimes.
I think I probably check Instagram more, and I will
Okay,
make an art Instagram. Like I said, coming up, I probably will do that this week.
cool.
Uh, but yeah, my normal Instagram, I check that more. It's not. It has like almost zero art on it. Unfortunately, it's all gymnastics
Okay.
flips and stuff. But yeah, it's just Truitt Parrish on
Yep.
Instagram. Yeah, and
Okay. Yeah, once you set up the art page, let me know. I'll help you get the word out to everybody, and
great.
then you just gotta just keep posting regularly or checking in on messages. I'm sure people it'll grow fast. I'm telling you.
All right.
So yeah, man. Well, it's cool talking. Like excited about this series, and then like what comes next with these concepts. It's really resonating hard. Like congratulations on all your success within the game and with your proof so far. Very well deserved, dude. You got a really awesome style of your own, and it seems to keep getting better and better. Can't wait to see Arthurian Legends
Thanks.
too.
Yeah, I'm really
So
excited about those. I have a couple of paintings in there that are my favorites so far. So that's awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know you get better over time, which is the beauty of it too. Like the more and more
Right.
practice and training you have, and getting adjusted to what TCG life is like, and what the vibe of the card needs to be like a game piece and a game type
Yeah.
environment. So
Yep.
that's cool. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna let you run, and I'll definitely be in touch. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. That's amazing. Appreciate everything
Uh,
you've done for the community and for me. Yeah.
thanks, man. All right. Have a good weekend. Take care.
You too. Peace.
See ya.